the time. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Heart and Soul. Today I'm joined by my friend and soul sister, Jenni Gallo. Is that what you would say your last name is?
It is my last name.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's like two because I have one in my back end that's your email, that's your former name, which we'll get into.
Right.
And then there's like the name part. So I like never know what to call you. But it's Gallo in my phone. So I feel like I got it right.
It's correct. Yes.
Jenni's been coming to Soul for like 6 months, maybe more.
Yeah.
And we just instantly clicked. She has a very strong faith. She has a very rich story, which we'll get into. And sometimes she comes on Friday mornings, and for some reason, our Friday morning classes at 9 a.m. have become like therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Like we turn the music down low, and like someone shares like the crappy thing that they're going through that day or in life, and then like by the end of it, we've all shared our testimonies, and we're all just like, well, we're all pretty messed up,
basically.
So anyways, I'm really excited to talk with you today. Thanks for joining me in person. It's always so much more fun to do interviews in person rather than Zoom.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Well, we have a lot to get into, and we don't know where we're going to go with it.
We'll see.
But won't he do it?
Yeah.
He's going to do it. Okay. So why don't you start by telling our listeners, you and I's listeners, a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what you're about.
Okay. So am I looking at you?
You can look at me, or you can look at the camera. It doesn't matter.
I don't know who I'm talking
to.
You
can look at me.
And I feel weird
if you
about
feel
that.
weird looking at yourself. Yeah.
So, hey, I'm Jenni Gallo. I have been in Wilmington for 5 years now, which is crazy. Grew up in Cary down the street, originally a New Yorker. I'm 45 years old.
She looks like she's 25.
45 years old. And I have been with Rodan and Fields for 12 years. So skincare girl.
And
I'm 45 years old. That's why.
And you're a singer.
Oh, yes, that too.
She has a band.
I'm in a band and I sing at church. Yeah.
But like she has gigs.
I have gigs.
Like,
I feel ridiculous about that. I'm 45 years old and I have gigs.
She like books gigs. Like how cool would that be to just say like, I have a gig this weekend? You get to say that.
I get to say that.
That's pretty neat. I don't know why that just feels so like.
I feel like it's a midlife
rock
crisis.
Star. No. It's not a midlife crisis. I feel like you have way more fun in life.
I have a really great situation.
Yeah. Than like most people. And
I feel very fortunate.
Yeah. And it took a lot to get to this point in your life, did it not?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna start. Where should we start?
Womb to tomb.
Let's start. What brought you to Wilmington? How about we start there?
Well, originally I went to college here, and then I moved to Cary. I got married when I was 26, and we were essentially over there in Cary and Apex, and we lived in Europe at one point. Long story longer, we'll get into it, but my marriage ended 5 years ago. It's been a little over 5 years now, which is crazy. It feels like yesterday.
Really? I was going to ask, like, does it feel like it's been longer or shorter? Or...
Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes I can't even remember.
Because you've like lived this whole life since.
I've lived an entirely new life. He's moved on, married again. Like,
wild.
It's weird. Sometimes it's really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been 5 years. And I moved here because at the time when we got separated, I was the villain in the story, which is okay. And a lot of people were not very kind and supportive, which again, their choice, but it was really hard for me. I was not okay living there. And so I just needed to start over. And 2 of my college roommates live here and one girl that I work with, and all 3 of them have been wonderful to me. And so I moved here really to just
start over.
Yeah. With people I love.
Okay, so you said you're the villain, which I love how open you are with your story, first of all. But 2, I think it's such a beautiful picture of like redemption. I think it's such a beautiful picture of what not to do in the church.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
Maybe not beautiful
Yeah,
is the wrong
right,
word, but
right.
like I think it's such a clear picture of like as believers what not to do to love your neighbor or your people. And then you've obviously stuck with the church. So like your relationship with the Lord is strong despite all the
Yes.
hate. So I would love for you, if whatever you feel comfortable
Okay with
with,
any of it.
to share like what led to you becoming this quote unquote villain that you call yourself,
Which is fair.
which you're not.
You're very kind. People that know me now are very kind to me. And yeah. So early in my marriage, probably it's like a time warp, 5 years in, I had an affair. Nothing, we had lived in Europe. Things were really great at the time. When we came home, we just were very disconnected. There's a million reasons why it happened, but at the end of the day, I made a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And the choice was not the right thing to do. Instead of turning toward my husband and working things out, I went somewhere else to get attention. And it was very short lived. I ended up telling him. We worked it out ish. We went to counseling. We did all the things that you're supposed to do. And then we kind of put it in a box and never
Addressed
it again. I mean, well, yes and no. I'm clearly very open about it. Anyone that knew me then, knows me now, knows that this is what happened. Because I think I'm open about it because my thought was always, people are going to talk about it. People run their mouth.
Right.
And so I'll just tell you the story.
That, and it's always from our brokenness when the most encouragement comes, I feel like.
Oh, for sure. God uses it.
He uses that the most. I mean, look at all the people he used in the Bible.
Hot messes.
They're all hot messes.
Very encouraging to me.
Yeah. You're like, well, I'm
you.
like kill that guy on that I was looking at. I was looking at that girl on the roof, and then I killed her husband. You know, like,
and that's a man after God's own heart.
That's a man after God's own heart. There's so many stories in scripture where it's just like these inadequate people who God still uses and redeems.
Right.
And so if you didn't share, I feel like it'd be a disgrace.
Right.
Almost.
I always just felt that way. I was like, you know what? This is what happened. I can pretend, I can hide, but everything done in secret comes out.
Yeah.
So I might as well share it. And I've been authentic about it from day one. And it happened, and I don't blame the other person. Honestly, he was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Right. Swept in. And so that happened. And like I said, we had counseling, and because we were so open about it. Right before we started, I told you I shared it in front of a church once. I very much have been
while y'all were still married.
While we were still married, he had to sit there, and it was very hard because I had to watch him grieve and stuff. Like I had to watch him go through all the stages of grief and know I caused it. So it was just it was a tough time all around. And when I say we put it away, we did, yet when couples were in crisis, they would come to us. Because at the time we were the poster children for getting it together and figuring it out. And I think really, I mean, we did our best, but I don't know how I used to look at him and go, I don't know how you forgave me. Like how, I mean, he did, it's a choice, but I don't know that anything was ever really the same between us. We did our best, and might have been, we were married 13 years. So what's that math? 13 minus 5. 10, 9, 8 years later.
I was like 7. No, that's wrong. I think you're right.
Okay.
My pregnant brain does not work.
No. My regular brain doesn't. So there you go. So 8 years later, I found myself exactly in the same spot that I did 5 years into the marriage. And I started to develop feelings for another man. I did not go and do all the things again, but I didn't want to do it again. Yeah. I didn't want to be this person again. I saw it happening, and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be this person. And so I was the one that ended it, which did not go over well with anybody.
Right.
Because he wasn't the one asking for a divorce. It was me.
I'm going to pause you real quick.
Yeah.
So the 8 years after the first 5, after the first incident, what was your marriage like? Did you feel connected, or did you feel kind of like going through the motions? Like,
I think we were going through motions. I don't want to talk poorly of him. He's a wonderful man. He's a
Oh no, I don't
right.
mean like
No,
him. I
no, no,
just
no.
mean
Like,
like
no, but I just
connection wise. Like,
connection wise, and I can't speak for him, but for me, I mean, I think we're really good friends.
yeah.
We're really good at being friends. We're good at being roommates. But I don't know on my end, at least, that there was any intimacy, any connection, anything
You had
that,
a lot of respect for each other.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of ended.
Yeah.
And even when it ended, we kind of looked at each other and said, we're really good at being friends. Where at the time he was in business with me, and he was like, we're good at being business partners. We're good at being friends. Let's not do what everybody does. Like, let's high five and be really cool through this divorce.
Which is rare.
And sadly, didn't end up as that way as much as I wished it would have. But I mean, we're still fine. I could still call him today if I needed something, but
Yeah.
he's married. I don't
Yeah,
ever,
you're being respectful of that.
we're good. But yeah, at the time, I think we were just really buddies.
Yeah.
And that's great, but I wanted more than a friend.
Yeah.
I would just say, I mean, when I talk to people in my world about it, I would say, listen, I have a ton of friends. I want more.
And I think a lot of or one of the common sayings, especially, I don't know why Christians who get married say this a lot, like, I just want to marry my best friend. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you want to be best friends with them, but there's also more to it.
You want
the chemistry.
Beautiful.
You want to be attracted to them. Like, you're not always going to look this way. We know that beauty is fleeting, all this stuff, but like, you want that attraction as well. That
right.
You're more than just my best friend.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was missing.
Yeah.
And we tried. And I think there was just a disconnect because I did the thing that was always kind of there.
It was like lingering.
Yeah. And I like to believe that people can come back from it, because we did for many years, and God can do miracles. So I see people survive affairs. However, I don't know. I don't know how much it never goes back to the same.
Yeah.
How could it?
You survived for 8 more years, which is a lot.
And I feel like, I gave it everything.
Yeah.
For those 8 years. Yeah.
Okay, back to where you were. So then
I started feeling all those things again. Now, at the time, there's more to our story. There were 2 little ones. I don't know if I've told you this part.
You have.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were 2 little ones that we took in, not Hassan and Jameer. So we took in some boys early on. We took some boys in early on who at this point were grown. But my ex had a brother who was addicted to everything. And the ex-wife, she's somewhere, I think, in South Carolina, but they had 2 children, and he ended up dying of cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And so we took these kids in, and we were actually on our way to adopting them. And when we separated, we were really close to signing the adoption papers.
Yeah.
And that's when I feel like everything in me started freaking out, going, this is it. Like, I'm tied.
We have children together.
To him. Like, everything was about to change. And it was more, I knew that it was like now or never.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I want to be there in their lives. I want to know them, but they're his family. So he said to me, it was like, listen, they're my family. I'm continuing the adoption. So people don't really know that part of the story, but basically it looked on the outside, because I don't share any of it, because it's not my secret I don't want to ever talk about the littles and involve them in any of it, but outside looking in, it just looked like I said, I'm done. I don't want to know these kids. I'm out. But I tried to stay in their lives, and it got to the place where he kind of said it was harder
for him.
Yeah. For everyone involved, and said, if they reach out to you, great. But if not, this is really hard, because they just lost their father. They don't know their mother. They're moved.
Right.
They were being
changes.
They were being raised by grandma for most of their lives, who was down the street, who is now it was just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They had been through some major trauma. And so, so when we ended, he ended up adopting them, and I was here, and I lost touch. Well, I still can reach out to them every so often, but I've kind of given him a boundary.
Right.
Because now he has a new wife. I'm pretty sure she's probably a mom to them. And
yeah, totally.
yeah. But yeah, there were kids involved at the end. But he said, he was like, if this were your niece and nephew, I would have been like, I'll fight you to the death for them. Like, they're mine.
Yeah.
So I get it. You know, they're
Totally.
family. Yeah.
Okay. So then you split.
We split.
And it seems like y'all were amicable. It's such a hard word to say.
Amicable as possible. I think
like
so.
kind to each other.
We were trying to be for the most part. Yeah.
But other people weren't.
No. No. And again, like outside looking in, I can see why anyone would feel the way they did.
Right.
Like
perspective is everything.
Right. And it was very hurtful, but my family, I didn't speak to them for 3-4 years. And we were close. Like my sister was one of my absolute best. Like she was my ride or die in life, my best friend. She literally lived across the street from me at the time when I couldn't. So early into our marriage, another thing going against us is we couldn't have children. And
that really causes tension. Not even, especially really not surface level. It's all underneath. Yeah. It's like all buried under the rug tension.
Yes. So
we've been there with infertility stuff.
It's hard.
It's hard on a marriage.
Yeah. I mean, I've just looked back and I'm like, gosh, we had nothing going for us.
Yeah.
like everything was going against us. And he's a good dude. So it's like, oh, I'm sorry this didn't. So we didn't. And then meanwhile, his brother was able to have all these children. Yeah. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And when we were going through infertility, we were in Europe at the time and by ourselves. And he was gone working. And so I would just lay on the bathroom floor sobbing every month.
So isolating.
Yeah, alone. And then I was kind of glad because it was a season where everyone I knew was getting pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so I would get phone calls, I'm pregnant. And I would get to just be really happy for them.
From a distance.
But then I could hang up and bawl.
Like, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's real. Like, you want to celebrate your friends, but also you're tender. And I've been there.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I need to create a boundary, but I love you.
Yeah.
And
so it was good. I was physically like,
you like had the biggest boundary of all.
I'm so happy for you.
Can't make it to the shower.
Cry over here.
Sorry.
I'll send a gift. So, I mean, because I was genuinely happy for them, but I went through all of that early on and I don't even know why I told you that part, but that
everything was against you. That's kind of where you were going with. And then your sister.
Okay. So my sister, she was there through with all of it, and she was one of the phone calls I got when I was not able to have kids. She was one of the people that called and said, I'm having a baby. And I was like, and I could always tell how long I had been trying to have a child because my niece, who is now about to turn 18, my sister and I, when I first got married, she looked at me and said, let's have kids together. And I was like, awesome. And I so excited. And we started trying at the exact same time. She got pregnant instantly. So my niece, who, like I said, is almost 18, it would have been 18 years now of wanting a baby. But her second child was born while I lived far away. And I remember saying to her, you're my best friend, so I need to do this with you. Like, I'm so happy, but I'm really upset for myself.
Yeah.
Like, you're 2 kids in and I don't.
Totally.
And she let me do all of it. So when everything happened with my ex and I, she and I parted ways, which was brutal. Her children, because I couldn't have kids, were everything to me. Mm-hmm. I literally saw them every day of their lives. Anytime I had a free night, I would have them come over. She had 3, has 3. And they're now 18, 16, and 14. And I haven't seen them in 5 years.
Still haven't?
No. I see them from far away, like on social media. One of them talks to me on, which is it? TikTok. I joined TikTok. It's like
the TikTok.
I joined the TikTok so that I could be friends with one of them. And so I can like at least follow her life. One of them won't accept my requests. One, I don't even think he knows me anymore. He actually kept me alive. I always look back and I'm like, that child kept me alive because when I first moved out, I wanted to kill myself on the regular because I was very alone in an apartment and depressed, and my family was gone. friends. My phone, anytime it dinged, I would be terrified because it would be a message telling me I'm a whore, I'm all these things.
Oh my
Like, it was just
gosh.
bad. And so I wanted to die. And this child, my sister's kid, would FaceTime me every morning. And he has no idea. I hope one day I can tell him. At the time, he would have been 9, I guess. And he loved Fortnite. And he was like, will you play Fortnite with me? So I went out and I bought a PlayStation and I learned how to play Fortnite so that I could sit and play Fortnite with this child every
and that's
day.
like what you lived for, were
I
those moments.
woke up every day because my company, thank God, was something I could just, it kind of ran itself at that point. So it was just, I was alone all day, every day. I'd wake up, go for a run, come back and play Fortnite with my nephew. And he would sit on FaceTime and giggle with me and wake up and go, when can we play? What time are you free? And I was like, okay, I'm going to play Fortnite again. And then I don't know, but on the other side, from what I understand, is that he was really struggling with understanding why he wasn't allowed to be around me. And so he was
allowed to FaceTime you, but not
I wasn't allowed to have the kids over. I wasn't allowed to be in their lives anymore.
Gotcha.
Essentially. But the FaceTiming and the Fortnite was okay at that point. And all of a sudden he stopped playing Fortnite and he said, I'm never allowed to play it again. And I guess he was not behaving because he wanted to hang out with me so much. So that was taken. We switched to a football game. I don't even know how to play anything.
So you're still playing games.
We tried. Yeah. I tried. We played twice and then I never heard from him again.
Oh man.
And so
that's so sad.
So I don't like at this point, he was so young. I don't even know if he knows who I am anymore.
I'm sure he does.
Somewhere.
9 years old. You have memories.
Somewhere. I mean, I took him to Disney once and rode It's a Small World probably 10 times with that child and just sat with him.
Oh, he knows who you are.
I hope so. I hope one day, my hope is that one day I know them again.
Yeah, I believe you will.
My counselor always said that. She's like, kids are grown way more than they're young. Like 18 years, done the rest of their lives. She's like, at least one of them will come back to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, they'll be curious.
I hope so.
So not only did your family kind of shun you, but also you were involved in the church. And what kind of experience did you have with that?
Oh dear God. So
and she's still involved in the church.
I love Jesus. So I wouldn't be alive without the Lord.
Yeah.
Like period. And I've never blamed him for his kids. Because I'm like,
that's a really good way of putting it.
Like we're all disasters. Like I had clearly cheated. Like I'd done so many bad things. So I just would look around and go, I'm not even mad at any of those people for feeling the way they did about me. People do this. I've watched it my whole life. Like, people are brutal when someone messes up. And so I understand it, but now I have a different understanding. So when I see the person do the bad thing, I'm like, wait, that's a human being.
Because
I've been on the other side of
you have the story and you have the empathy now.
Yeah. In a totally different way. But at the time, so my ex and I, we had decided, gosh, this day sucked. We decided that we were like, we're doing this. We're getting divorced. So we reached out to someone in the church and said, sorry, we've made this decision.
Y'all made this decision in a kind and respectful way, which is like the wild thing.
We went together to the church and said, hey, we've made this decision. It's not working. Can somebody be there for us and walk us through this? Like, this is a hard road. Can somebody just hold our hand through it? And the person said, yes, just come to church. We'll meet you there. So we went in and I was not okay. I was not in a good place.
Obviously.
For a million reasons.
Yeah.
And so we went in and sitting in the back row and it's such it's a crazy blur, but the girl in the front, somehow they asked people to come up to get prayed for. I was like, I'm just going to wait outside. I need a minute. And as I was walking out, the girl in the front was a friend of mine and she called my name and said, Jenni, come up here to the front. They called my husband.
This is during like a service?
Oh yeah. Middle of church. Glenn,
pressure.
I shouldn't have said it. My ex and I walked up to the front and they pulled us to a side room. It's like they pulled us into the side room and like several people were in there with us and they were standing there, made us like hold hands and look at each other and say, like, prayed over us and like had us like say a bunch of vows again. Like they were looking at us like we were going to renew our vows. And we were both standing there vacant, not okay.
Like, what's going on?
What is happening?
Yeah.
And like they finished praying and they looked at us like, did we fix you? And we were like,
oh.
And I just was like, I need a minute. I need a minute.
Yeah.
Can you guys? So he looked at me and he was like, what happened? And I was like,
were they just like trying to heal the situation?
Like,
lay hands and heal?
I fully am someone like I was healed of an incurable disease. I
Yes.
know God can do anything. In that moment, they prayed for us and thought it happened. Like their hearts changed. And they were like,
it's like crickets.
And we were both like, both of us. And they left. And I feel like we kind of laughed. Like, I was like,
what was that?
I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do we do? What are we doing right now? And he was like, I don't know. So we were like, we're just going to like go home now. Bye. Like we left. After that, the pastor
So
like
awkward.
unfriended me on social media. Like it was so ugly because we continued down the road of divorce.
So they wanted to pray for healing, but like couldn't.
No one was accepting.
Couldn't
what was
love
happening.
you through the mess.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. And everyone, and I understand that God hates divorce. I get it. It sucks. I hate it too.
Yeah.
And I get it because it doesn't just affect the two people. Clearly, it affected so many people who were, hurt by I don't know. I didn't realize our divorce or our marriage was so powerful. It's like, I sat around like, how are all these people affected by
sometimes
our life?
It's the like deflection. I think sometimes people like they don't know how to handle pain. So, I mean, we're all just like really imperfect beings trying to like find someone else to almost blame for or like
there's always got to be a villain. There always has to be a villain. There always has to be a bad guy. And the people that I've talked to that have, I feel like, emotional maturity and wisdom will look at you and say, there are two people in every marriage.
Yes.
And an affair is a bomb that just goes off. Like,
but there was a war battling before. There was a battle.
A lot of symptoms happening and a bomb went off. But most people don't see it that way. They see it as you're the villain. Right. Here you are. You're a whore. That's what I got.
I cannot believe that.
Which is, it is what it is. And so, yes, we left church that day and I was like, I don't even understand what's happening. And then my family, when I say, like, I grew up loving the Lord, my family was super close. They're all still very close. And it took a very long time. My parents and I, years of fighting, and we didn't talk to each other. And anytime I would try, it would turn into a battle. I have one sister, thankfully, a million years later. She's been divorced, which is the irony behind all of it. But in the story, she is the victim, not the villain. So she was okay. And so she was there for me at the beginning, but very much felt torn between everything.
Right.
She and I have since had some really great conversations. But all of that to say, yes, the church really hurt me. And when I moved here, I was not sure I could do this with Christians again because it was very painful.
Yeah.
But again, he's it for me. Like, I was brought to nothing. I was a puddle on the floor and all I had was the Lord.
Yeah.
And thankfully, he brought people into my world that loved me through it. I was crazy because I had to learn how to depend on people I'd never depended on before. But in a time when I needed the people more than anything. And so I remember I have one friend who is one of my best friends to this day. She is one of the busiest people I know. And she told me at that time she had a phone glued to her because she knew if I called, it could be life or death. Like, she knew it was that bad. And I look back and I'm like, gosh, was it that obvious?
But that's love. Like, that's like,
I mean,
true love,
right?
Friendship and care, like to be cared for like that.
I was taken care of by people that just swept in and loved me.
And when a time when you needed it the most.
And when I moved here, my friend, so when I lived here in college, I was a young life leader. And there's this couple that was our leaders to the young life leaders. and they're still in my life today.
Oh.
They're my friend's mother and father-in-law now. And
Oh.
when I moved here, they all came and helped me move in. They've just been family to me. I go to every holiday at their house now. They're my people.
That's so sweet.
And yeah, the Bonnie family, they're amazing.
Cute.
And they've taken me in. And so many people have. And then because of my friend Amy Bonnie, she took me to church and said, just come with me. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit here. And I would sit there vacant in the back of the room and be like, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
But
probably
I'm here.
scared. Like,
just terrified.
I don't want to enter into this again.
Yeah, terrified.
Like, Jesus, I love you. We're good. But like
He
this
and I
whole
we're
big C
good.
church, like,
yeah, I understood unconditional love in a way I never understood
yeah,
before then. But
I think that's very important to like address is the church is known to just burn you. I mean,
church hurt is real.
Church hurt is real. Church bitterness is very real, and it's because it's a bunch of humans, people
are people and
broken people trying
yeah,
and failing, and that's what we all
Yeah,
do. We try and we fail. We try and we fail, and I think that it's important to remember that like Jesus is
he's not them.
He's not them.
Right.
And it's all about him. And I think also to remember, like, if you're in a church right now that you love and like something happens that makes you feel weird, that doesn't mean you just run away. Like, there's grace. You're
just going to go to another place and more people are going
to fail you everywhere
Right.
you go. Like, every church is going to have something that doesn't fit your needs in some way.
And that's my favorite part of this church is I grew up very Pentecostal, spirit-filled, like non-denominational type person.
Mm-hmm.
And this church is Methodist. And I sat in this room thinking, I'm not a Methodist. I don't know what I'm doing here.
There's traditions here.
There's lots going on. And I remember one of my friends at the time, he was like, Jenni, I feel like this is going to be really good for you. These people are going to help you put your feet on the ground in a way that maybe you never have. I've lived out here. And I remember just thinking they're being nice to me. That's all I cared about at that time.
Kindness.
I was like, they're not telling me that I'm a terrible person. They don't hate me. They're not kicking me out.
Totally.
They're being my friends. That's what I need.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even care that I disagree with how you baptize a baby. Like I don't care. Like
we're all going to get something wrong.
Yeah. Somebody's right, but I don't know who. It could be you. I don't know. So I just sit around going, and so it was funny because they asked me, and then the pastor called me and asked me to meet him. I guess at the time he saw one of my TikToks.
Hilarious. This is a theme. It's like a theme, an anchor of the story. TikTok. Who knew?
Who knew? Where I was singing or doing something, and he asked me if I would help lead worship. And I went out to coffee with him, and I said, okay, however, I need to tell you who I am. And he sat there and I told him everything I'm saying right now. And I was like, I am not liked where I came from. And I have done a lot of things that are really screwed up. I have hurt a ton of people. I do not know that you want me standing in front of that room leading worship. And he just sat there staring at me. And he was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, like, have you read the Bible?
He was like, no, I'm good. And I was like,
they're all screwed up.
Oh, okay. And I was like, well, you might get phone calls from people. I was like, I could show you my phone. Like, it is not pretty. And he was like, I can handle it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
What a relief for you to be able to hear that kind of response in that, like, very fragile season.
Yeah. I was like, are you sure? Like, he's like, Jenni, we've got your back. It's okay.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. Well, I guess I'll show up. And I remember thinking, like, I have no business being up here. I have no business helping. But that group of people poured into me, loved me. They asked me to join their church. And I said to them, you guys, like, I'm not really even a Methodist. Yeah. I don't even know what you're doing. Like, I don't know what's happening.
I don't know half the stuff y'all are doing.
I don't know what's going on. But it was funny because when you join a church, which I've never done in my life, but they ask you to stand up in front of the room and just promise that you're going to
be committed,
be a part of the family, that group. And I remember before I did that, I looked at them and I was like, I wrote them a list in a text and I said, here are all the things I need you to promise me if I'm going to join this church.
So bold.
I was like, I'm not joining unless you tell me right now that the moment I mess up, because I'm going to mess up,
Totally. We all
you're
are.
not going to ditch me. You're not going to throw me out. You're not going to treat me like trash. You're not going to tell me I'm a whore. Like, I need to know all of these things now. I was like,
I'm like so glad you did that.
Well, I said, I was like, I can promise a bunch of stuff to you, but I need something from you. Like, I need to know
This is a relationship.
you really have my back and you're going to forgive me when I screw up. You're not going to just call me out and like judge me and treat me like, you're going to love me through it when I screw up. And they were like, yeah, we got you. So
you're like, okay, you're my people.
You're my people.
And that was when? That was how many years ago?
It's not that much longer. I mean, it was probably within the past 2 years I've joined.
Okay. And then you started leading worship pretty quickly after that.
Well, I was already leading worship.
Yeah, you're like,
I was already in there. That's why I was like, I already hang out here. I've been leading worship there. It's got to be at least 3 years, maybe more. Like, I was not equipped. Like, when I started, I was not okay. Like,
and you're like really good. Like, y'all share your videos from Sundays.
You're super nice. Thanks.
And I watch them. And y'all are like, your band is so good. The worst, like the leading, the anointing is there. It's
a really cool group of people. Yeah. They've become family to me for sure.
And honestly, that type of worship, because my mom grew up Methodist.
Yeah.
That type of worship is rare to see in the like traditional Methodist church.
Right. Well, there are traditional services, and I sit there and I'm like,
you're like, okay. So to have like, I don't know, it's just like, it seems like your church is a very like loving, welcoming group of people who love the Lord, and
they're very authentic. They're real.
Yes.
They're regular people. Yeah. And I've said that to the pastor, him and his wife are friends of mine now. And I'm like, you're just a regular person to me. FYI.
Which is like, so comforting to having a pastor, to not like put them on this pedestal of like, they're closer to the Lord than I am. Or like,
same.
We're all
doing the best
we're all doing the best we can. Yeah. We were all created in his image. We all have gifts. We all have things we're going to suck at. And we like are supposed to be the body for each other.
Right.
And what a beautiful picture after what you came from of the body.
Right.
Truly like
loving me,
loving you. Yeah.
And I don't like the group that did all the things. We were really close to them, so I know I hurt them.
Totally. And
so I'm okay with what happened.
I can see and hear your heart in this. Like, this is not a blame shame
I know.
thing.
Yeah. But I always just want to be clear. I'm like, one of them ever listens to something, I'm like, I just want you to like, I want them to know, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand what you did.
I wish it could have been different.
Yeah. I hate that I hurted people.
Yeah.
Hurted.
I hurted some people.
I hurted some people.
See, we're all just humans messing up. Our words.
I hurted some people, and I'm sorry about it.
I was down bad. Okay, so if you could look back at Jenni 5 years ago, let's say 6 years ago, when you're like gearing into, I'm a wreck.
Wrecking ball was about to hit my life.
And tell her one thing, what would you tell her?
It's going to get better.
It's going to get better.
Like, I mean, that's all I would have to tell. I remember I would get hit with this, like, grief is something fierce. Mm-hmm. And when the grief that I went through it felt like a bomb went off and I lost my whole family in a day.
Yeah.
Gosh, look at me. And so it would hit me like a tidal wave, and I would call my friend. I have one friend. Well, I have two really cool friends. One, God told her to call me. She was one of my college roommates, and we had lost touch for several years. And out of nowhere, she called me right after I moved out. And she said, I know this is out of nowhere. This is left field. I saw a picture of you on social media. You're not okay. God told me to call you. Mm. And I was like, whoa, I just moved out. I left my husband. And she was like,
I knew something was up.
Yeah.
That's the Holy Spirit right there.
It was totally the Lord. And she said, what do you need? And I was like, I just need someone to care that I'm alive every day, that I wake up every day. This is 2019 is when I left. I don't know how many years this is. What year is this? 24?
2024, yeah.
So 5, yeah. 5 years. Every single day for 5 years, that girl has texted me and said,
wow.
Hey, good morning. How are you good? Are you awake? And I have one other friend who's done the same thing. She stepped in. She said, I know this is out of nowhere. She was on my team with Rodan and Fields. I knew her, but I didn't like know her.
Yeah.
And she asked me to go to lunch, and she said, "This is so weird, but I had a dream, and you were in a field, and you were holding your sword, and you put your sword down, and you were just standing there." And she said, "And I came running to you, and God told me to hold your sword until you're ready to hold it again."
I'm going to cry.
And I was like, I was like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to hold anything again.
Wow.
Like, because I was a fighter. Like, I was someone who fought for people and prayed for people and a warrior for people. And she was like, "You're going to be able to hold it again.
You're going to pick up that
She's
sword
like, "But
again."
I'm here." And what's crazy, it's so beautiful. It's such a like cool turn of events. A year ago, I hosted a women's retreat with my friend Kim at church, one of the pastors there. And it was, I forget what it was called. I Am Enough, probably. That's usually my thing. But
That's my go-to.
It was my go-to. I feel like, I don't even know. I think it was that. But I shared my story, all of it. And she came and she looked at me and she said, "This is it. This is the moment where I'm giving you your sword back." She's like, "You don't need it anymore." And I was like, it was just like this really cool. Anyway, all that to
So
say,
beautiful.
but if you had told me in 2019 that I'd ever be in a place where I was me, but like a version of me that was stronger, that was figuring out who I
Empowered.
actually am without, like, as much as I've hated losing my family, and God's redeemed so much of that,
Right.
which is a beautiful part of it. But as much as I hated losing them, I think I had to.
Yeah.
I was so enmeshed. And so my identity was so dependent on what they thought of me. And however, it just was performing, I think, for everyone for so long that I didn't know who I was. So I was ripped down to shreds, and
God's
put me
like,
back
"I'm going to tell you
together.
who you are."
Yeah. Humpty Dumpty was put back together. I mean, it was just, yeah, it was a brutal season. But if I could tell her something, it was to just keep going. It's going to get better.
It's going to get better. And I think that's like what all of us can look back on a part of our story, or maybe you're in the middle of it and
Yeah.
you're like, "There's no way I can come back from this."
Yeah.
Or I can't even picture a light at the end of the tunnel. And I just like want you to hear that is
It gets better.
It gets better. And it
God's a
gets harder too.
Right.
It gets worse. It gets better. That's
Yeah.
just life.
God's a
It's
God of
up,
redemption.
it's down. He's a redeemer, and also this is not our home.
Right.
So it's
He
like
promises in this life we will have trouble.
will have trouble, and not just once.
Oh, I've had it so many
We
times.
have so many troubles.
I mean, but he uses it. Like
that's the beauty of it, is he uses it, and he allows the body to also like come together for each other. Like, what a cool way for, and if you're listening, this is encouragement to you too. Like, for those two people, the one who had the dream and then the one who has texted you every day since,
listen,
to like step into a ministry.
Listen when God tells you.
Listen,
because that person
it could be something so simple. I just send a text every morning and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
Literally every day.
And that's a ministry. That's like
everything
transformative.
I needed.
Yeah.
Every day I knew someone cared.
Totally. And
still,
I think that discernment, like that Holy Spirit discernment, like it'll give you, like people call it your gut, but like it'll give you a feeling of like an like almost like a nudge to do something. And like doing it feels scary, but then once you've done it, it can be transformative.
It changed. It kept me alive
for someone else.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just think, like, if you're listening to this and you've had like a nudge on your heart, or maybe someone's been placed on your heart and you're just like, "I don't know, I haven't talked to them in forever. Like, this would be weird." Just reach out. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
I always think that. I'm like, I've survived the worst. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like at this point, I'm like, I've survived losing everything.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Like, oh, someone like doesn't text me back.
Hate me?
Yeah.
Okay. Done that before.
Yeah. Done that.
But can I say one thing? Because I feel
Yeah,
like
you
it's
can say
important. God's a God of redemption. And I don't ever want to end the story with I don't have a family, because it's important that I honor my parents in this. It took 3 or 4 years of not having a relationship. My mom and I talked twice a day, every day. Like, we were each other's person. And it must have been Christmas last year. So it's not been that long. ago, whenever Christmas was, December. I know when Christmas was.
Whenever
you know, that Christmas
is,
season,
you know that
I had
thing?
a meal with them. And as we tried every year to like hang out and do things. And I had a meal and something broke between my mother and I where I finally looked at her and said, "You're my mom. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't want me to be okay and why you would want me to suffer." And I just sobbed and I was like, "I don't know what's happening, but you're my mother."
Yeah. I
And
need you.
she was like, and it took her a minute, but we left that meal and she said, "I didn't know I hurt you as bad as I did, and I'm sorry."
Mm,
And which was huge
totally.
moment. And it took a lot of swallowing of pride for my mom to say that after
Absolutely.
standing her ground for so many years. And my dad looked at me and said, "You're our daughter." And I said, "But Dad, I hurt you. You needed to deal with it." And he goes, "It probably took us a little too long."
Mm,
And I was like, maybe
yeah.
a little bit, but they both apologized. And what's so beautiful is right after, do you know those year Bibles?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had read it by myself last year and I was like, check, I read it.
Yeah. Check
Like,
off my Christian
I
to-do
did
list.
that. But I was like, I didn't read it. So I called my dad and I said, "Dad, would you," told him what I just said. And I said, "Would you be open to reading it with me and studying it with me every week?" I said, "We can invite other people."
Yeah.
I said, "But he lives, in Fuquay, Raleigh." And I said, "We can just sit on a Zoom once a week and just read it and talk about it."
Yeah.
And
Simple.
he was like, "Okay." And so since January 1 of this year, actually it happened this morning, every Thursday morning, we get on a Zoom and I go through the Bible the whole week long and write notes about what I'm reading. And I'll just go through and say, "This is what we read. Let's talk about it." And there's other people that have joined, but I sit there in utter disbelief that we went from absolutely not talking to each other to weekly studying the Bible together. And he
Wild.
said at this study in front of other people that I was talking about the unconditional love of the Lord once and how my dad's my dad, whether I mess up or not. And I said something about how, there were years that we didn't talk. And my dad stopped and said, I forget what he said, a feeble man or something. And I didn't do right by my daughter.
To say that in front of others.
Yeah. He owned it.
Wow.
And yeah. So
It just goes to show like
redemption.
It's possible for everyone. Like you, although it's like your story, it's also their story too. And for that, like that's a huge, probably pivotal moment for them to look back at their testimony or whatnot and be like, "Oh, this was a time when like the Lord like changed my heart."
Yeah.
Yeah. And it had to be woven together that way.
Yeah.
Like maybe there was pride. I don't know. Who knows? It's just like the fact that there's always room for redemption, no matter how far gone. I'm using that in air quotes. You think you are, you're never too far gone.
Never too far gone.
Yeah.
And I have a sister and a brother who I haven't even mentioned, but that I don't speak to.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm like, Lord, do it.
He can do it.
If you want this, like, of course you want this. You're a God of reconciliation. So when the time is right, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I'm forgiving and I love them and I'm open to it. So,
and it probably taught you so much on this end about forgiveness, even just like Christ's forgiveness for us, like dying on that cross, like for all that he like was up there dying for, like for you to like have this like more, I'm sure you have this more like very open heart to like just forgive because of how you were forgiven.
Yeah. Who am I to not forgive somebody?
And you know what? Everyone's done something or is doing something right now.
There's a lot of stuff.
And in God's eyes, it's all unrighteous. And that's what Christ came for, to be our righteousness.
Right.
And so like we're all covered no matter what level of sin.
Well, and it's funny because we do that. He's not doing it.
He's not doing it.
It's all the same to him.
It's
and he
literally
can't see any
all the
of
same.
It. That's the crazy. Like
he can't see it. He only sees Jesus.
Right. So it's like we're over here going, well, at least I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
I did a bad thing, but at least it's not that.
Because that's how like we're conditioned to think, because we are just people.
We're
just
people.
humans.
And we want to work for stuff, and God's not that way.
Yeah. He's like, "You guys, I already did it.
Yeah. I don't
It's
see it.
done. I don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. Like, I feel like that's the message of your story. I'm sure there's like so much more to your story, but like
the gist.
we could sit here all day. But that is what I wanted to talk about, because I know that there's probably people listening to this podcast today, or will listen to this podcast years from now because it's just out there.
Yeah.
And who will be like, oh, I'm not too far gone.
No one's too far gone.
No one's too far gone. And that's like what anyone needs to hear, no matter if it's an affair or gossip, like
Right.
It's just like, you get stuck in these sin patterns and you're never too far gone.
No.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story.
Of course.
I always wrap up with 4 random questions that I ask every single guest.
Okay.
And I don't ever tell them what they are, but they're the same questions every time.
Oh.
So my first question is, what's something that you're currently obsessed with?
What am I currently obsessed with?
Could be a food, could be like a show, could be a book.
Oh, I could tell you a show. I'm currently watching, I could tell you a show. I'm watching Marvelous Miss Maisel with Camille, my roommate.
Oh, yeah. I heard that's cute.
Well, I tried to watch it years ago and it was too fresh. My story was too fresh.
Like, not yet.
So I was like, this show sucks. But now I'm watching it again. I'm like, oh, I get you.
Yeah. We are one.
Yeah, same. So
that's cute. Okay. Next question is, what's something that you're looking forward to in the rest of 2024?
This is a good one. This is probably way too long of an answer, but I'll
take your time, girl.
So every year I have a word. I start my year with a word.
I do too.
Oh, what's your word?
Perspective.
Oh, I like that.
What's yours this year?
Miracles. Miraculous. Because last year it was favor. Because I said, Lord, I'm really sick of not having good. I need your favor.
I'm really sick of the lack of favor.
I was like, I really could use your favor this year. But I was like, this year I was like, I really felt like that happened. I love that because you can start to see that word weave through. And so I said to the Lord, I need this to be my year of miracles, because there's 3 major things, like relationally, financially. There's things that only could happen from you, like my siblings being in my life. And I've been watching, one is unfolding already, where I have a lot of financial debt from my said divorce that's just been staring at me for a very long time. And I said to him, I don't know how to get rid of it, but I was like, you took my spiritual debt. So maybe you could take my
this is easy
physical debt.
Yeah.
This feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And he provided a way. And so I'm moving into a new house, selling out. I'm in a chaotic season, but on the other side of it is one of my miracles.
You'll be debt-free.
Debt-free.
That's amazing.
Other than a mortgage, but that's
fine. Everyone has a mortgage.
Yeah. But yeah.
I don't consider that debt.
I know. I'm like, we'll just pretend that's not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be debt-free, and which is, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt gone.
Incredible.
Miracles.
Miracles. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm going to make that my word next year.
I know. It's really fun.
Like, now that you're
but one of my friends, when I said it, she was like, not only, how cool is it that not only is he going to give you miracles, but you get to be a conduit for other people's miracles.
Right.
And because that's one of my favorite things. We didn't even talk about the healing situation, but I love to pray for people to be healed.
Yeah.
Because it happened in my life. And so I very much believe that it's a real thing.
We need to get you back on to tell that story.
That's its own thing.
That's its own story. Okay. My third question is maybe that's my fourth. I haven't asked these in so long. Hold on. The last 3 episodes, I was either alone or I had, we did our pop culture episodes, and I don't do these questions on
That's
those.
fair. Okay.
The next question is, if you could tell, what is one thing right now that you really love about yourself? Doesn't have to be physical, obviously. Just something characteristic, something you love about yourself right now in this season.
Maybe that I have empathy, because I don't think I ever had it. I know I didn't have it.
Yeah, I
know I was probably very judgy. Right. I was doing things right until I wasn't.
Until you weren't. Yeah, that's how we all are.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
So it's really easy to be like, ugh.
until you're the
Until
one.
you're like, oh wait,
that needs
that
the
sucks.
yeah.
So I think like as much as I've hated how I had to get it, I love that I have a heart for people.
You really do too. Like on an approachable level, I think it's often really it's really hard to find people, especially in the church, who are approachable.
Right.
Do you know what
Well,
I mean?
think
Like
it's
where you
because
feel
I share my stuff. People are like,
where you
she's
feel
not
like
going to judge me.
yeah, like I'm not going to get judged, or
Yeah.
I can come as I am. And I've seen it with you and Soul Girls. Like
Oh.
there's girls of all ages in Soul, and whether they're 23,
Yeah.
like Sally, like
I love
you and
her.
her are like bros.
I love
And
her.
like it's just like, but it's because you create this like comfortable, safe space for people. And I think that obviously is a part of the empathy, but just like you being loving. Like
Thank you.
what those two girls were to you, like you are to other people.
Well, thank you.
My last question is, if you could leave a post-it note for my listeners to put on their mirror today, just like something that's on it, short and sweet, encouraging, what would it say?
I am enough. I told you it's my thing. I am enough. You're enough just as you are.
Yeah, you are enough. Amen.
Yeah.
You are enough. Where can my listeners find you? Like Instagram. You're obviously on the TikTok.
I'm on the TikTok. I haven't been on there in so long. I haven't posted anything there, but I had a really great one for a hot minute. I had a good run.
Yeah. My TikTok is like something I would really like to get going, but it's just sad.
I don't think I'm cool enough.
I'm not there. And like it takes one video I know to like go viral or whatever, but I can't make it.
No. No. It's just mine are like, no.
Like I put my TikTok in the show notes every week and I haven't got one follower from it.
Oh, yeah, no. Mine aren't good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just not. I think I'm embarrassed. I'm secondary embarrassed for myself with my own TikToks.
Yeah. But I love scrolling TikTok. It's the funniest platform to me.
I'm on there. Don't look there. But I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
My name is Jenni East Coast, which is its own story.
And I'll put that in the show notes too, so you can follow her and see her singing videos. Because there's a lot of them, like both with her gigs,
my gigs,
and her church. Cool. I'll put it all in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And listeners, I will talk to you next week. Love you. Bye.